Welcome. I see plenty of people logging in. We have opened the connection a little bit earlier to allow participants to join us smoothly before we kick off our conversation today in a few minutes. It always takes a little bit of time, so happy to anticipate a few minutes for people to join us. We'll be giving instructions as soon as we officially kick off, but just for you to know, your microphones are all muted, but you will be able to use the question and answer function to post your questions. You can also use the chat if you wish to share some comments or connect with others, etc. But please make sure you just use the question and answer section for putting forward your question. And if I may ask you, given that the time is always limited, we'll have 10 minutes at the end for taking questions. Please make sure your question is short and to the point if you can. So it will allow us to take more questions from the audience. I see people joining and a couple of people greeting us from the chat. It's great that people are taking the time. It's Friday afternoon, so not always easy. We are all already preparing for the weekend. Yes, good afternoon and good evening, because we have seen that we have registrations literally from all over the world for these first IRF executives talks. So very pleased to have you. Numbers are growing. It's 1:59 in Geneva, so we'll take a few more minutes before we will go. We start our chat. Just for you to know as well, this webinar and this talk will be recorded, and we will make the recordings available on the IRF website, so you have a chance to go back and re-listen and share with others. Eventually, you have not been able to join us today for this conversation. The recordings, of course, is just for us talking. Participants cannot be seen, nor you can be heard. You have been muted to ensure a smooth running of the event. Let me check my watch. Now it's 2:01. We'll probably take one more minute to allow more participants to come on board. I see the numbers are growing faster now. Please use again the question and answer function. When you want to pose any question, we will take those questions at the end of our talk. So we will make sure we reserve 10 minutes to answer those questions. Please make sure you go straight to the point and give us short questions so that we allow everyone a chance to talk with Florent Menegaux, the CEO of Michelin. I see more people using the chat. We'll probably kick off, Florent, if you don't mind. So we know that your agenda is pretty busy, so we make sure we don't delay you too much. First of all, warm welcome to all of you connecting today for this first IRF executive talks. I'm extremely honored to have the pleasure to welcome Florent Menegaux, the CEO of Michelin today. And he's actually kicking off this series. He's the very first speaker for this very first IRF executive talks. It's a new series of talks that we are launching today and that we will host regularly. Hopefully every month we'll be able to give you a chance to speak with a top executive from our sector, from our industry. It will go this way. It's a 20-minute one-to-one chat that I have the pleasure to have with Florent today, and then we will take 10 minutes to respond to some of your questions. So I've been repeating this from the beginning. Make sure that you use the question and answer function that you see displayed probably at the bottom of your screen to put forward your question. So short questions, please, and to the point, so that we give everyone a possibility to ask something to our guest today. Florent, welcome. Thank you very much for making the time to be with us today.
Thank you, Susanna, and welcome to all of you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for each of you.
Yes, we do have people joining us today from all parts of the world, and well, indeed, Michelin is a multinational and a global company. And by the way, let me maybe start by the big news of the past few days, that Michelin has gained again spot #1 in the global tire industry ranking. So I think that might feel pretty good, especially given these times and all the difficulties that the sectors and all the industries and companies are having, given the COVID-19 pandemic and the crisis that it has generated. So how does that feel?
Thank you, Susanna, for this quote. You know, we have to stay very humble, but of course we are very honored to have ranked once for the past, I think, 12 years. So we are very pleased with that. But let me tell you that it is the result of a very hard work, and that all the Michelin teams all around the world are working very hard every day. And we are not focused on being #1. We are focused on doing the right job every day to serve our customers. That's what moves us every day.
Yes, and it's clear that success in a sector like yours, which is extremely competitive, it's not an easy thing, and it doesn't come by chance. So warm congratulations to you and the entire teams who are behind you. But Michelin is actually not just a tire company, and I think we have to make justice to Michelin. And so can you please tell us, for those who are not very familiar with the whole host of activities that you have, what is the scope of Michelin's activities today?
Yes, yes, Susanna. We have 4 areas of growth. The first one, of course, is one where we are well known around the world, is the tire, and we are the world leader in sustainable and durable tires, which reduce consumption, long-lasting performance. It's the core of our business. But we have, for many years, also developed other activities which are directly related to our purpose. We care about giving people a better way forward. That's what drives us every day. That's why we are together at Michelin, and that's what is irrigating everything we do. So beyond tires, we also are willing to help people in their mobility and developing better experience. We believe mobility is absolutely fundamental for human progress, and we want to have this mobility to be as enjoyable as possible. And you see that through the guides, the maps and guides we have developed over more than a century. And we want to accompany our people in their movement in many places. The third activity is services and solutions. So just providing an excellent tire is not sufficient. You need to help people understand the performance, understand what they can do with their object. Plus, we have developed a huge knowledge about the usages of our customers, and that drives the capacity to develop services that are going to help our customers do better their job and make them more profitable, better servicing their customers, etc. So you should know, for example, that as part of services, we manage automatically, we provide devices that manage automatically the pressure of agricultural tires. Therefore, we can increase the yield of a field just by managing correctly the pressure automatically. That's what the kind of services we are providing. And the fourth area of growth is what we talk high-tech materials. You should all understand that a tire looks very familiar, looks very basic, but you should know that it's a very high piece of technology. And in it, you have 200 components that live together for a long time, especially in Michelin tires. And the science behind high-tech materials is huge. And therefore, there are many other ways that this science can be helping our customers. And that's what we call high-tech materials. So we are one of the leaders in 3D metallic printing, so additive manufacturing. We are one of the leaders in halogen fuel cell. We are in development of very high-tech joints. We are in conveyor belts and many different activities. And you're going to see Michelin more and more developing in this area.
And thank you, Florent. What is really the strategic vision behind this? I hear often Michelin teams talking about the all sustainable vision. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. What has been the key to our success for the past 135 years each is exactly that. We have a vision where we do not oppose people, profit, and planet. We want, and that's what we want to do. We want to reconcile those three ideas. In a corporation and interacting with our customers and suppliers, we want to help people grow in what they do. They're not just a tool. That's why we don't use human resources in our company, because we think human beings are full of resources. They are not a resource. So we do everything to make sure that people grow while they do what they do. The second thing is we look at profit in our growth, and of course we will not qualify as a corporation if we were not driving profit. The essence of a corporation is to make profit. Otherwise, we could be a church, an association, whatever. But a corporation has to deliver profit, and that's what drives also all the progress we make. And the third piece, which is also very important, is from the very beginning, very origin of our group, we've always taken care of societies and of the natural resources we would use and the impact of our activities into the world. And reconciling and the all sustainable is managing both these three elements at the same time. That's what drives our success around the world.
And it's definitely not an easy balance to strike, especially if I think to the period which is right behind us and the period we're living today. How have you been able to cope with this, to keep consistent with this type of vision in a period like the lockdown or the current crisis we're experimenting during COVID-19? So how has Michelin coped during the crisis, and you personally as well, if you can share that with us?
Yeah. This has been a challenging time, of course, and what we have seen is that when half of the world is confined, so is locked down, and when mobility is affected, you see the effect, the huge impact on the overall economy in the world. So first of all, it reinforced our strong belief that mobility is really a driver of human progress. Now, during the crisis, I've been very clear and I've said, during crisis, we go to the essential. I've said, first priority that goes above everything is safety of our people, everything. Second priority is make sure that we support our cash flow. So it means that during this is make sure that our activities, if we have any, is focused on managing the essentials so that we can have the means to stay independent. But what I was saying, protecting the health of our people, it was also protecting our stakeholders, meaning our customers, our suppliers, and even the societies in which we were living. So we have donated the mask. We have also protected the weakest of our suppliers. So we have not stopped buying because we were in difficulties. For as long as we were having the cash flow means, we have continued to buy to suppliers, even if we were not needing precisely what they were offering, because to support their activities. We did the same for our customers. So clearly that worked very well during the crisis, and touch wood, but so far Michelin has been very resilient, and the fact that we are in every country around the world, the fact that we are multidimensional with many activities has made us very resilient. And but I would at the end, it's because we work with fantastic people.
Yes, and I'd like you to underline that, because that's one of the strong beliefs we have as well at the IRF. No matter what you do, we need to make sure that we bring people back at the center. And I think we'll get that further down our conversation when we talk about mobility and probably the vision that you have for the mobility of the future. But I see many people online, and I think there's so much we could say about COVID and how all of us are reacting. If you were to summarize, what have you learned, first of all, as a person, as a CEO, and what has Michelin learned? What was really the key learnings in what has happened?
The first one is that being global and diverse is really a major asset. The fact that, for example, we entered the COVID-19 crisis in China end of 2019. So we have had all the learnings in January, February. So therefore we have constantly been in a position to anticipate everything. That was very, very good. And as the COVID was spreading around the world, we have always been in front and on top of it. So that was very good. The fact that we have diverse type of activities is also, when an activity is down, right now, for example, our aircraft tires are in extreme difficulty, but at the same time, mining activity is strong, passenger car is recovering, etc., etc. So having a diverse portfolio of activities is also a very strong asset. The second thing is, the second learning is that you have to being very sensitive to listening to all the weak signals, and looking at what is developing in the society you live in, and being connected with the field in every country around the world, just to measure what is happening. The third thing is make sure that your people know precisely where you are, what you do, and as a group, and listen to what they have to say, and make sure that they, so in this period, we have learned that we need to over-communicate. Much more than what we do normally, to make sure that everyone knows exactly what he has to do, and that he is supported by other people. And it's essential. For example, we had most of our people employed in support services and things like that. We had, for once, almost everyone at home. And how do you make the connection? How do you make sure that the relationship between the people, and how do you make sure the communication flows well between everyone? So that we learn that we have made tremendous progress about communication, and in this crisis period, over-communicate.
Yes, and I think many of the people connecting with us today will relate to that. It has been quite a tsunami for all of us who have to handle teams and business and activities. if I go back to what you were saying about your all sustainable vision, and now at the same time, this pressure that we all have to boost economy, to relaunch the economy, how do you see, how is it, I mean, is it compatible, that vision, with the quick and fast recovery that everyone wants to see?
Um, as you know, Susanna, because we've been interacting very often together, the issues about the world did not stop with the COVID. We had some major issue that we needed to fix entering the COVID-19 crisis. And what the COVID-19 crisis is helping us to understand is how crucial is addressing our issues, or the impact of our activities in the world, and mastering that impact is absolutely essential. So the idea of making sure that all human activities have an impact on the earth. Managing that impact, mastering that impact is crucial. So to support the economy, most of the governments around the world are taking very heavy measures to support financially this activity. I think it would be foolish to flood a lot of money in the markets and not using that money to develop the product, the services that are going to help fixing the issues. So I'm very pleased with what Europe is doing, for example, with the Green Deal. I think it is exactly the right way to make investment, and we are going to be able to reconcile our climate issues with our growth development. And sometimes I hear we should slow down our growth. I don't think slowing down the growth is the right vision. If you want to limit the impact, let's use technology, let's use human intelligence, let's use collective intelligence to develop the solutions. And we have the technologies. We just have to channel our funds and our energy into the right activities. So I'm absolutely convinced on that.
So that's that. I would say that the recommendation you would give to those decision makers who are right now trying to pull together all these recovery plans. And I feel for them, because it's very easy to sit on this side of the table and criticize all the time, but it's not easy to be in their position and yes, have that lucidity of making choices that will shape the future of our countries.
And the issues we have to tackle are very complex. So we really now have to work on an ecosystemic approach, meaning that we have to learn to work together. I use your strength, you use my strength, and etc. And then the opposing the public sphere with the private sphere, I think, is foolish. We need to work together. The authorities, the NGOs, and everyone has a play, everyone has a say, and we need to learn to work together, because we'll be much more efficient collectively than if we work on our each on our side trying to fight each other.
Which is exactly, I believe, the type of thinking and ecosystem that Moving On has been able to pull together. And I can testify myself, because I've been, and I'm a great fan of Moving On every year. Maybe you could tell us 2 words on that.
Yes, Moving On is a gathering once a year with the Moving On Summit. We meet, we have all the stakeholders involved in, that are believing in mobility first, and making sure that we address the drawback of that mobility rather than reducing mobility. So all the stakeholders, universities, research and development teams, but also regulators, politicians, city mayors, but also private corporations are together to look at it and to move from intention into action. We really need to act now. And it's, I'm very glad to see that United Nations is really taking that motto, is really it's act now. And we have act for now. What matters is acting. But in moving on, we gather all these energies into a summit. And then during the year, we have what we call the Moving On Lab, which is a series of ecosystems with different corporations that are gathering on tackling one issue around mobility. It can be how do we share public space in a city, and then how do you share information into different type of cars, and how do you address safety in this type of environment, etc., etc. So you have a lot of themes, and all these themes are directly brought by people that are forming small communities, think tank communities, but it's think tank and act communities. That's what Moving On is.
And I can confirm that because I've been involved and it has been a real pleasure. I always say it's that time of the year when I get the chance to feed my brain with new ideas. And yes, connecting with Moving On, I think that the topic around Moving On it's bringing communities together, it's innovation, but also it's all moved by that vision that you have of sustainable mobility. What is the vision that Michelin has for sustainable mobility? And I know that safety has quite a big component in that. And I'm running out of the time because it's...
Yeah, of course. So safety, let's put blunt numbers together very, very soon. You know how much effort the world is doing to combat COVID-19. Now, the fatalities, unfortunately, the fatalities due to the COVID have not yet reached, as far as I know, reached 1 million fatalities, which is already a huge number. But every year on the road, you have more than 1.5 million fatalities. It's huge, and we don't have the same attention to this that is happening every day on our road. So I am concerned when my kids were young, the issue was how would I allow them to go alone to school, not getting injured? How do we improve safety? So this safety issue is also part of sustainability, because if we have something that is less impacting on the climate, but that kills people on another manner, it's wrong. So really part of sustainability is addressing all the drawbacks and all the collateral of enhanced mobility, more traffic, more and behaviors. So if we look at the fields to be attacked on safety, I think we have to look at first passive safety. So cars that are safer because they have mechanism to brake better, that are protecting the people inside better with airbags and things like that. That's what it calls passive. But also we need to look at active, and active is how do you help drivers, the people that are in the steering wheel, adopting better behaviors? How do you train them about the impact they can have in the way they drive? And how do you help them also mastering their emotion while they drive? We are all different when we get into a car, which is strange. I don't know why, but when we enter into a car, suddenly our behavior changes. So we really have to address these issues. That's what I call more active action. And so we have many different initiatives, and Michelin is helping as much as we can in many different countries around the world to tackle that issue. For example, if I look at Southeast Asia, we are helping, making sure that in Thailand, for example, a lot of people taking bikes wear helmets. So we have an initiative on that. But we have other initiatives in Brazil, for example. We work with universities to help educating youngsters or students on how that not all of them are Ayrton Senna, and that Ayrton Senna was driving that fast when he was on the circuit. which was a defined environment that was enabling that, etc., etc.
Yes, and speed is we all know it's a fundamental a risk factor that we need to manage carefully if we want to reach the targets. And the good news is that the UN road safety, the UN General Assembly just last week approved a new resolution that marks the start of a new decade of action for road safety. So I think we have a lot of work on our table. Florent, I am conscious of the time. We're already running late, and I see there are plenty of questions lining up. So I'll try to get them on my phone to see them better. And I see that many of them actually linked to what we are saying. There's some questions about road safety, and then I do have specific questions, in fact, on the sustainability part. So somebody's asking, you discuss sustainability. How much recycled material does Michelin use in its products today? And the second one is, how can road makers and tire makers better cooperate for safety and sustainability?
So a quick answer, we don't measure only recycled materials into our tires, but we have only yet 30% of materials that are either biosourced or recycled materials into our tires. But we have committed that by 2040, we will have 100% biosourced material or regenerated materials or recycled materials.
Yes, and I'm looking at other questions. I think, yes, we do have a question related to what was in the news as well about your moves into the hydrogen market. Can you say something about that?
Yes, clearly hydrogen is the sort of the fifth element, the missing element into the energy. Really, hydrogen reconciles many issues about that energy. So hydrogen for us is the energy of the future. And we are, because of our science on materials, at the core of a hydrogen fuel cell, you have a coated membrane that is part of our core knowledge. So let me give you a quick hint on hydrogen. We support the development of electric cars. Sometimes people are opposing electric cars with hydrogen cars. No, hydrogen is just a way of storing electricity, and then you use that storage, and you have a hydrogen fuel cell in the car or in the truck, and you produce your electricity, and then that drives the engine. But it's an electric engine in both cases. And then in the long run, we believe that to solve the impact, the CO2 impact of development of the vehicle park around the world, it is important that we move to electromobility. Mm-hmm. And, you have two ways of storing your range. One is hydrogen, the other one is a battery. So both are going to coexist and develop, but hydrogen will take, we think, a very big part.
So, and I'd like to link to that because there's another question is asked us, so what does the future of mobility looks like for Michelin? How are we going, are cars going to disappear?
Cars are going to disappear. We believe that within the next 10 to 15 years, the vehicle park is going to double. Why? Because in the world, the rate of equipment varies drastically around different countries. If you look at Europe, the rate of equipment in Europe for 1,000 inhabitants is 600 cars. In the US, it's 850 cars for 1,000 inhabitants. But in Asia, right now, it's less than 200. In India, it's less than 50. And you have a lot of people in Asia and India, and Africa is less than 10. And cars are helping a lot. It gives you access to knowledge, can give you access to work, can give you access to entertainment, can give you access to your family. So a car is really an instrument of freedom. Now, in places where the density of population is very high, it is true that it makes more sense to develop common transportation. But in low density places, it is very hard to justify economically any common transportation means. So in the US, the reason why the railway is not that developed, it's because you have huge space and very low density of population. So therefore, you cannot economically justify to put a railway or a metro. But in New York, you see metro is heavily developed. Why? Because the density of population is very high. So you are going to, we believe, and I strongly believe in and versus or. It's not or public transportation and single vehicle ownership. It's both. You are going to see both. Now, in very heavily concentrated, heavy concentration of population, of course, if everyone takes its individual cars, it means heavy jams everywhere. So it's a huge parking lot. So that will not develop. But as soon as you move out, the cars is still very interesting. So that's why it is still developing, and it will still develop over time. So I do not believe cars are going to disappear.
And I think that's a vision that we at IRF share. The point is, I think the strategic question and the key challenge we have in front of us is really how do we realize truly multimodal systems where everyone has a place to play. We always say as a federation, we're not expecting to pave highways everywhere. That's not what we want. But think about it for a second, whether you walk or you take a bike or you take public transport or you take a train, at the end of the day, you will always end up on the road. So yeah. It's useless to stigmatize. We're all part of the same system, and we need to make sure that that system functions really properly. Florent, I'm conscious of timing. It's 2:34. I think I will have to apologize to all the speaker, the participants who have been putting forward these questions. I think there's one, if I may ask you, that seems to have gained quite a bit of success. It's a question about expectations regarding your recently announced cooperation with the Scandinavian Enviro Systems.
Yes.
That one had quite a bit of text, so that's probably
we want to transform basically and quickly and roughly, we want to transform used tires into new raw materials. So we have had, there are many technologies, but not yet mature enough to do that. And it's very difficult. We spend huge amount of money to build very highly resisting tires, long lasting, etc. So now the question is, how do we develop technologies to undo all what we have done before and to put it back into basic raw materials? We think Enviro is a good way. It's an interesting technology. So we are buying the technology from Enviro, and we are going to build their first plant, and where we will look at the scaling effect and see whether this works or not. But we're working very hard, and in the future, you've looked at our tires, it's called a Vision tire. In the future, you will press a button and the car, your tire will dissolve into basic components. And that's what we're working on. And in the future as well, we're working on reloadable tires. So that like you do with your phone, you will go some places and you'll say, give me 10,000 more miles for my tires, and they will be reloaded on your tires.
Thank you, Florent, and that's same vision we have as well. It's I think there's a lot of research which is being done, but lots of our members on how do we recycle our roads and make sure that we save resources. If I can steal you few
Yes.
more minutes of your time, I promised the people connecting us today that we would get even personal and ask you a couple of questions. But rather than personal issues with you, there are two key topics that are very close to my heart, but to the heart of IRF as well. And one of those is the young generations, and the second one is women and gender diversity in a sector like ours. I know there are plenty of young professionals connected with us today. IRF will be hosting end of the month on the 30th of September, the first IRF Young Professional Summit. So I know they're all connected right now. If you were to give them an advice today, what would that be? What would be your advice to the young professionals out there listening to us today?
I would say, first, believe in you. You are the future of this world, and believe in technology, believe in your collective wisdom, and work collectively. Technologies will be what you want it to be. And there are many ways we can address the issues we have, and have faith in corporations, because that's the best way to achieve things. Have faith in your governments. Do not discount your vote. It's every individual's vote is crucial for democracies. And democracies is, Churchill was saying, is the best worst system around the world. So it's the best amongst the worst systems around the world. So really, but if I were to summarize, believe in you, and do not think that it was better before and it will be worse tomorrow. It will be better tomorrow.
Thank you for the positive message. And if you were to give that advice now, and I'm turning to women professionals out there who are, trying to thrive in their career, as you know, it's a pretty much male-dominated environment, the one where I personally work as well. I often am the only woman sitting at the table. What would that advice be? How can we see more women get into the type of positions that you have?
Yes. The first one is break the glass ceiling. Do not think you're not able, or do not think you're at a disadvantage. You're really at par, and everything is open. So it's not because the sector used to be very maleistic that it has to be so forever. No. And the second thing is, there are sometimes some bad behaviors and from people. So speak out. Never allow this thing to happen. So talk about it, speak about it, because I can tell you, there are many males that are determined to address this point. Sometimes I'm outraged by what I hear. So first one is, you can go, you can be in my position, no issue. There is nothing in your DNA that forbids you to do that. And the second thing is, do not accept things like the way they used to be, and speak out, talk about it, and make sure that things that look normal may not be normal, and therefore speak out.
Thank you, Florent. I think we have largely abused your time. Is 2:41. Thank you so much for having taken the opportunity to share with us about yourself, your experience, and Michelin as well, helping us kicking off perfectly this new series of IRF Executive Talks. I'd like to thank as well all of you who have been joining us and participating today. Many still online, so thank you for that. And just to remind you that the next appointment with the IRF Executive Talks is scheduled for the 1st of October, and we will be welcoming a woman, in fact. We will be welcoming Magali Anderson. She's the Chief Sustainability Officer from Lafarge-Holcim. So another interesting conversation waits for us. Thank you, and a good weekend to everybody. Thank you so much, Florent. Have a great weekend and a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye to all of you.